What's up, guys? This week we're going to talk about the new Tomb Raider movie and answer the question, did it break the video game movie curse? And this is going to function as sort of a follow-up to last week's video, so if you haven't seen that one, go check it out real quick. Otherwise, let's get going. So the way I was thinking about doing this is just run through a bunch of the things I said last week about how to make video game movies good and determining whether or not the Tomb Raider movie actually did those. So first up is make it a TV show. Obviously, they did not make it a TV show. This is a movie. But I think this was kind of a neat example where they didn't actually have to. The story of this game is pretty simple. It's basically, we're trapped on an island. I have to learn how to survive well enough to save my friends and find out a way we can get off the island. Also, there's a cult here with a creepy old man trying to kill us and something going on with a god. Simple enough, not too many characters. Yeah, they were able to translate this pretty well to screen because of its simplicity. They were also able to recognize what's the core of this story. They brought that over, and they changed a whole lot of other stuff. So they were able to make their own story and adapt the original story, both in pretty interesting ways. Another thing they didn't do the dumb video game movie thing. They didn't do the Doom first-person segment, or, anything that's just, look, it's a video game gameplay in our movie. None of that. Sure, Laura had to climb some stuff and solve some puzzles throughout the movie, but they integrated all of those things in ways that made sense for the plot of the movie. They just adapted the story of the game into movie format. Nothing felt like a shoehorned game mechanic in this film. Carrying on from that, they were just able to adapt the story of the game into movie form, in my opinion, very well, in part by identifying what aspects of the storyline in the game work because they have gameplay integrated into them, and what parts of the story work as just being a story. For starters, the character changes. There are a couple main characters in this movie. There's Laura, there's her traveling partner, Lou Ren, and there's Matthias. Biggest character change is Matthias because he's no longer just a guy who was marooned here years ago and now is kind of a cult leader of this weird god. He's part of the organization Trinity, which is introduced in this movie. Another big change because they don't come in the games until the sequel game. But now you have a real antagonist force with sort of resources and everything like that, and they're looking for the same thing as Laura because her motivation for the island is finding out what happened to her father, which is very closely tied to the reason Trinity is there. This big tomb with something in it. They're all looking for it at the same time. This adds a nice little Indiana Jones type element where both the protagonist and antagonist are looking for the same thing, and it's sort of a race against each other to figure it all out. Going back to understanding what works because it had gameplay in it, what doesn't, much of the game is spent with Laura on her own in the forest, sort of figuring out how to survive, infiltrating camps and fighting off wolves and climbing towers, and all that works in a game because it's fun and you're doing it, right? You don't necessarily need to see all that on screen. Laura's only alone on the island in this movie for 5 to 15 minutes, which allows her to really play off the other characters much more, which is what you want to see in a film format. In addition to this stuff, I think the cast is really great. Alicia Vikander kills it as Lara Croft. Walton Goggins is really great as the villain Matthias. I also really enjoyed Daniel Wu's portrayal as the sort of sidekick character Lou Ren, who's her transport as well. Also, Dominic West as Richard Croft was really enjoyable. As her father, you really get a sense of their relationship in some flashback scenes. It really adds a whole lot of heart to the movie. So the ultimate question is, did this break the video game movie curse? Is this the one? Well, it's way better than Assassin's Creed, that's for sure. It's less ambitious than the Warcraft movie was, but in this case, I think that's actually fine. Not everything needs to be huge scope story, and ultimately it saves it from Warcraft's mistake of overextending itself and ultimately falling on its face. I personally thought the movie was pretty solid. They definitely understood the story they wanted to tell, and in my opinion, told it well. Then all the performances are pretty good, too. You have a solid emotional core, being Laura's relationship with her dad and wanting to figure out what happened to him. It's not anything super mind-blowing. It's not going to rock your world, but I like the characters enough. I was engaged in what was going on, and the movie doesn't seem to screw up in any big way either. It doesn't have any major plot holes or just dumb things that happen that I can really remember. And it had some plot twists I genuinely wasn't expecting. Critics seem to be split about 50-50 on this. Audiences seem to like it all right. It's managed to make its production budget back over the opening weekend, which is all right. So did it break the trend? For me, I'm going to say yes. For the general public, that is a big maybe. Sad to say, but it sort of, I think, depends on how it does financially. If enough people go see it, it's safe to say that it's broken the video game movie curse. If not, I don't know. Like, it's going to work for some people and not for others. But if you want to see a game story adapted really faithfully while still taking liberties and making their own thing out of it, this is a great example of how to do that. Ultimately, I think they built a solid foundation for a franchise here if they choose to continue it. I'd like to see more of these adventures, at least. Well, those are my thoughts on Tomb Raider. If you saw it, let me know what you think about it. Did you enjoy it at all? Do you not like it? Whatever, somewhere in between. If you like this and you want to see more, like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next Thursday. Plan on doing something about Infinity War then. So, see you then. And one last thing, totally unrelated, but go see Annihilation. It's awesome.